Lucy Sprague Mitchell was born to Otho and Lucia on July 2, 1878, and was one of 6 children. The Spragues were a wealthy family who lived in Chicago, Illinois. Lucy's childhood was a very strict one, and oftentimes she felt anxious, frightened, and lonely. She was very introverted as well, and scared about failing at school. Her household was described as emotionally barren and joyless. She also describes her father, Otho, as an authoritarian parent who was feared by the family. Her mother, on the other hand, was warm and caring and dedicated to both her family and taking care of the household. The Spragues relied on a strict family schedule and on discipline. The children even had a book of sins they kept track of, and if they misbehaved, they were fined. Lucy felt a lot of guilt and unworthiness in her childhood. As an adolescent, she met Alice Freeman Palmer, who was a dean of women. Alice stayed with the Sprague family while she was working at the University of Chicago as a dean. She introduced Lucy to several educated women working at the University of Chicago, which inspired her to take interest in her education and her own intellect. Lucy also had access to many connections through her father, including Jane Addams, the founder of Hull House, John Dewey, a philosopher and psychologist, and she was introduced to Marion Talbot, who was a dean of women at the University of Chicago, as well as Sophoniza Breckenridge, who was a social worker, social activist, and educator.
As Lucy transitioned into young adulthood, she decided to take the entrance exams for Radcliffe College, an all-women's college in Cambridge, Massachusetts that functioned as the women's equivalent of Harvard College. She was admitted in 1896, which is where she was introduced to John Dewey's theories, and was impressed with his idea of education as a social function, connecting the child to the experiences of others. Alice Freeman Palmer and her husband, Harvard philosophy professor George H. Palmer, took Lucy in and let her live with them as she attended the university. At the Palmers' home, she found a supportive and warm environment. Alice continued to be a strong role model for Lucy and treated her as if she was her own daughter. During her time at Radcliffe, female students of Radcliffe could not walk through the Harvard yard. This demonstrated the segregation between male and female students. There was a lack of support for women to get an education because they were seen as delicate. After graduating, Lucy worked as a secretary at Radcliffe until the president of the University of California at Berkeley, Benjamin Wheeler, offered her the position of Dean of Women at the school. Her responsibilities consisted of studying women students and creating as well as defining what a Dean of Women's position would consist of. While women students attended the University of California at this time, and had been since the 1870s, it was not a welcoming place for them. Campus violence and exclusion from clubs, athletics, and other activities was common and reoccurring. President Wheeler set out to change the campus climate by allowing Lucy to study the women students and create an action plan for how she could improve their experiences at the university. Lucy was officially appointed the Dean of Women in 1906 and also became an associate professor of English. She was innovative and dynamic in her role as dean.
When Lucy became the Dean of Women at the University of California, Berkeley, she established great connections. 1. She created a strong advocate for female students on campus. She voiced their concerns to the president and trustees when topics of financing and budgeting of residence halls were discussed. She had a great rapport with the president at her time at Berkeley. The boarding houses for women were expensive and kept them away from campus life. To find a solution, Lucy encouraged the creation of clubhouses, which would offer room and board to the female students. These clubhouses would be run by the women themselves. In turn, this taught them responsibilities, independence, and problem-solving skills. Not only was she an advocate for women receiving adequate housing, she also gave women a space on campus to stay involved. She created a group called the Critics on Hearth. This group gave women students the opportunity to present impromptu speeches to one another and critique their performance. Lucy also had a house built for entertaining others called the Storybook House. This house hosted recitals, refreshments, and encouraged the female students to write and perform their own acts or plays from 1912 to 1931 at Berkeley. Lucy strongly believed that it was necessary for women to be educated on social issues and to be involved in social reform somehow. She believed women on campus were being isolated from what was going on in the real world. Outside of the university and outside of the courses they were being taught. So, in order to combat this, every Saturday, Lucy would lead discussion groups about the social issues and would bring students to different parts of the community. So she would take them on field trips to orphanages and settlement houses just to witness those social issues that she was discussing on Saturdays in real life. Lucy also enjoyed interacting with students by getting to know all of them, especially the freshmen at the university. She took after Alice Freeman Palmer. She called this style of interaction a heart culture because she focused on each student individually, which made her interactions highly personal. An example that was brought up during the research is that she would invite each one of the freshmen to her house to learn more about them and the issues they were facing. She also hosted poetry readings in her own home. Her colleagues stated that she advised the first-year students on courses and approved their study list. And once the class of freshmen grew to a larger class, she appointed upperclassmen and faculty advisors to assist freshmen in getting acclimated to the university, such as a mentor-mentee program. In addition to emphasizing the heart culture on campus, she taught a sex education course at her time at Berkeley, and she really had a great desire to bring programs to the university such as home economics, library science, nursing, and social charity programs that would really benefit and expand the career options for women. Although in 1911, Lucy resigned as Dean of Women and faculty member from the University of California, Berkeley, she was described by her colleagues as the Dean of Deans and a mother to us all. Lucy's ultimate goal was to strengthen the self-esteem of women students at the university, and she did achieve this goal by introducing them to independence skills, self-governance, creating relationships with other students, developing activities for them to participate in, and working to improve their home conditions. Although her work as a pioneer in the field of education was far from over.
A few years after resigning as the Dean of Women, Lucy, her husband Wesley, and Harriet Johnson established the Bureau of Educational Experiments, or BEE, in 1916, which is known as Bank Street College of Education today. Aided by teachers and researchers, the BEE was interested in finding out about which types of environments would promote the best kind of learning and growth for younger children. Lucy believed that the process of learning should develop the whole child. Thus, the BEE also established the Cooperative School for Student Teachers. This taught future teachers to pay attention to the whole child and how they develop. Bank Street College of Education was like a close-knit family that Lucy was a part of as well. Also, Lucy led professional development workshops for New York City teachers who would take what they had learned in those workshops and apply it to their own classrooms. She educated them about Bank Street's teaching methods and showed them how to incorporate the community and the outside world into their lessons, specifically by encouraging student field trips. She helped participants develop a unique curriculum that focused on the idea of the school and the community being connected as well. Lucy strongly believed that children would get more out of their learning if they were engaged and if they participated in hands-on experiences. In addition to her work within the field of education, she also wrote many children's books and books for teachers to use as resources. One book titled Young Geographers: How They Explore the World and How They Map the World helped teachers plan geography lessons for students from the ages of 5 to 12 years old.
During this presentation, we highlighted mainly the work portion of Lucy Sprague Mitchell's life. She was one of very few women that could say she had a family and was able to have a successful career. She was lucky enough to find this balance when she married Wesley Clare Mitchell in 1912. When he proposed, she was very hesitant at first to accept because she did not want to lose her independence, but had realized and he had convinced her that this would not happen with Wesley. He was very understanding of her strong desire to make work the center of her life.
and was willing to enter the home and care for their 6 children during their marriage. Lucy and Wesley were lucky enough to conceive 3 children and were given the privilege of adopting 3 others. Looking back on these 36 years of marriage, the children say they don't remember much of their mother. There was a large disconnect between them because she was so dedicated and involved in her work with the education of young children. The children were much closer to their father because men had began to enter the homes during the 1950s. Lucy was very driven to do well in her work because she did not want to end up stuck at home like she was during her childhood. She was very much the family nurse during her late teens. Her 2 brothers had died from contagious diseases, her older sister had a mental breakdown, and her mother suffered from severe depression, along with her father having to battle tuberculosis that he had contracted from the Civil War. She had become her father's personal servant and was very much aware that she was not living the life that she had in mind for herself. She was determined to get an education and make something of herself. Lucy Sprague Mitchell made several contributions to the field of education. Lucy was able to overcome her childhood oppression and become a successful woman who balanced her professional life and family life at the same time. Throughout the course of her life, she was a mother to 6 children, but influenced and was a role model to so many more, making her a pioneer in the field of higher education today.
To reflect on the impact that Lucy Sprague Mitchell had on higher education, as well as all of those whose profession is to educate, we look to the credo that she wrote 100 years ago upon establishment of the Bank Street College of Education, a credo that is the culmination of her time at Radcliffe, her relationship with Alice Freeman Palmer, her time as a Dean of Women at UC Berkeley, and finally, her experience as a wife and mother. Lucy Sprague Mitchell wrote, "What potentialities in human beings, children, teachers, and ourselves, do we want to see develop? A zest for living that comes from taking in the world with all 5 senses alert, lively intellectual curiosities that turn the world into an exciting laboratory and keep one ever a learner, flexibility when confronted with change, and ability to relinquish patterns that no longer fit the present, the courage to work, unafraid and efficiently, in a world of new needs, new problems, and new ideas. Gentleness combined with justice in passing judgments on other human beings. Sensitivity, not only to the external formal rights of the other fellow, but to him as another human being seeking a good life through his own standards. And finally, a striving to live democratically, in and out of schools, as the best way to advance our concept of democracy. Our credo demands ethical standards as well as scientific attitudes. Our work is based on the faith that human beings can improve the society they have created." Lucy Sprague Mitchell broke the mold in women's higher education and continues to inspire those who seek to do the same today.